Well, it's Chucky's turn for the tier list treatment, so let's talk Child's Play. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm doing a Child's Play tier list for you guys. I did a lot of the other big horror franchises already in a tier list, so it's Chucky's turn. We got all 8 films here. We're not going to waste any more time. If you want a more in-depth ranking of these movies where, I go more into detail on why I rank them where I do, go check out my regular ranking of the Child's Play movies. I already put it out. It's been a while, but I do go more in depth on why I like and don't like some of these movies. This is going to be a bit quicker because it's a tier list, so without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So let's kick things off with the original Child's Play movie from the 80s. One of my personal favorite 80s films. If you've seen my ranking, this is my favorite Child's Play movie. I know it's not a lot of people's favorite, but I just like the way things play out, the mystery behind everything, how all the characters suspect Andy of doing a lot of these terrible things since there's no one else to blame but Chucky, and obviously who's going to blame a doll. I just think it's handled really well. Chucky himself is not trying to be a comedian here. He doesn't have a bunch of one-liners. He has a couple, but not a lot. And I kind of like him like that. Just makes him more of a threat. I don't know, just makes him seem more menacing when he's not saying jokes all the time, You do get that one funny line where he's going up the elevator and this old couple calls him ugly or something. He's like, fuck you. It's just little scenes like that, but there's not a lot of it. And I kind of appreciate the film for that. We got Alex Vincent playing Andy Barkley, and he was really young here, so he fumbles a few of his lines and stuff, but I feel like it works for the film. And yeah, he's just so charming, and he definitely plays this natural kid because he's even screwing up his lines sometimes. So I just think it really works within the film, his character, and just seeing his bond with Chucky throughout and how he doesn't really seem to understand the danger that he's in until it's too late later in the film. The whole final act is friggin' amazing, where Chucky just doesn't stop coming at them, and he's on fire, he's getting shot at, and you got limbs flying and everything. It's friggin' epic, and I love the final act in here. I also love one of the best scenes in this entire franchise is when the mother realizes that Chucky actually is alive, when she sees that the batteries aren't even in him. And she ends up losing him, and he goes under the couch, rolls under the couch, and the tension is at an all-time high in that scene when she's slowly looking under the couch and everything. So good. All the way up to where she's trying to throw him into the fireplace, and she's yelling at him to speak, damn it, and all this, and he ends up freaking out for the first time in front of her. That is so good as well. So a lot of great moments in here. I love how it's less of a comedy than some of these other films. It's more horror-centric, and it's just really well made. Tom Holland directed the hell out of this, so I really love the original Child's Play. I know a lot of people wouldn't put this up in S tier, but I am. It's my favorite in the franchise. It's one of my favorite 80s movies of all time, and I just think it's really well written, great score to it, a great final act. Love the characters, so it's going up there. Doesn't have the most gruesome kills or anything, but I think they're pretty creative in their own ways. Moving on to Child's Play 2. Now, a great follow-up to the original. This seems to be a fan favorite when it comes to the franchise, and I see why. Chucky gets a lot more to do in here. You get some more one-liners. He's starting to become the Chucky that we all know and love. They still don't cross the line too much with the comedy. That will happen later in the franchise. But they have a good balance in this one with Chucky, being a smart aleck and being ferocious in this killer, right? So I like that. Some memorable moments in here, whether we're talking about him beating the teacher with the yardstick, him at the foster parents' house where he kills the father on the stairs, where how's it hanging, Phil? That whole line, that's pretty iconic and awesome. In this one, Andy is not friends with Chucky. The whole first movie is kind of standing up for him and everything, but in this one he wants nothing to do with him, and he's trying to get away from him, and yet still no one kind of believes Andy, obviously, with everything that happened. You got Kyle at the foster care as well. Andy and her form this great bond. You know, she never really had a family or nothing, so it's nice to see that connection with Andy, and they really do feel like brother and sister by the end of this film. Oh, the ending of this film is phenomenal. I'd say the best final act in this franchise once we get to the toy factory. Everything leading up to the toy factory is really good. It's just sometimes it kind of feels like we're repeating the same beats as the first movie a little bit in regards to no one believing Andy and everything again. But once we get to that third act at the toy factory, it is just golden. How Chucky just slowly keeps getting tortured and tortured, trying to get them, you know, getting melted, having to use like this trolley, getting his hand ripped off and replacing it with a dagger basically. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse to the point where he ends up blowing up for putting an air hose in him. And it's just such a thrilling and captivating third act. I like the setting of the toy store too, with all the good guy dolls everywhere. I thought that was really cool. And it's just a badass third act. We got great characters throughout, like I said, with Kyle. Andy's great again. So yeah, pretty much on par with the original for the most part. For me personally, I'm going to put this in A, just because I love the first movie just that much more. And like I said, the first half of this movie could have been a little bit better. I think the whole intro where they take the old good guy doll from the first movie and try to remake him into another good guy doll just to prove that there was nothing wrong with them, I thought was really dumb and stupid. I could see the point, but at the same time, it's just kind of dumb, right? So it is what it is. People are going to get mad at me, I can tell you right now, for putting this in A and not an S, but who cares? It's my ranking, so it's going in A. Moving on to Child's Play 3. Now, at one point in my life, I really didn't like Child's Play 3. You know, growing up, I just thought it was boring and dull compared to the first two. Not as many great standout kills. Andy's not a kid no more. He's a teenager, so it all seems kind of weird. But over the years, I kind of grew to appreciate it. Appreciate the military setting, you know, at this military academy or whatever. And yeah, just switching up the formula a bit, it definitely helps. And this does feel like it's meant to be part of the real trilogy, the first trilogy. It does do a good job at that. It doesn't feel like it's way different than the first two movies, but it does set itself apart. And I think it works within the trilogy. Like I said, I didn't really care for it before. I grown to like it over the years, rewatching it. Grown to like the characters. I like the barber in here. I think he's kind of funny, and he gets a pretty great kill from Chucky Pesto or whatever. I think that's great. The whole paintball scene I always found super ridiculous because they're putting like paintball bullets in the real rifles. Don't know if that's possible. I always thought it was kind of ridiculous and very dangerous if it is possible, but it does make for a pretty entertaining scene with like one half the academy shooting the other half and actually killing them, thinking that they're shooting paintballs. Pretty crazy. And the whole act in that scene, like where they're having the whole paintball fight scene, is pretty epic. They got that whole grenade kill where that one kid sacrifices himself, like the nerd actually mans up and takes one for the team, which is real great. So yeah, I like the characters. I like this new setting. It just is not as good as the first two movies, in my opinion. It doesn't flow as nicely. Tyler, the kid who's hanging out with Chucky in this film, is very annoying. I kind of still can't stand him, but I guess he's playing the part right because, you know, he's playing this kid. A lot of kids are annoying like him, so he's playing it well. It's just I kind of can't stand him. And yeah, the whole final act is great once again when we're at like the amusement park. Chucky gets like his face sliced off with like the Grim Reaper knife thing, the scythe or whatever, the sickle. That's pretty badass. He got a good look near the end, but it happens so quick. It kind of feels rushed, the third act, I feel. So while this movie has problems, I have really warmed up to it. I think it's a B now. I would have put it in D when I was a kid, but over the years, I've grown to appreciate this more. And yeah, I kind of really do like this one now. I'm not mad when it's put on, that's for sure. So I think it sits well in the B category. Moving on, The Bride of Chucky. Now this is one, the complete opposite of Child's Play 3, where I really loved it as a kid. Was easily my favorite. I rented it all the time. Was always trying to show my friends this. And I just love the style of it. This one definitely brings more of the comedy, but it seems to work within the story. As I grew up, I kind of wish it would have been more horror eccentric, but as a kid, this just worked out so well for me. I love the gothic atmosphere and the mood of the film, especially in the first part with Jennifer Tilly, doing the voodoo and everything. It's awesome, and great lighting and atmosphere and everything throughout. Jennifer Tilly is friggin' awesome in this flick, whether we're talking about her as the doll or outside the doll, whether when she's Tiffany or not. I mean, she is just fantastic, and this is the best she ever is in any of these movies. I think she nails the role and brings some fresh breath of air to the franchise, if you will. And this one feels more modern than the first three movies. This is taking place in, or it came out in 98, but it really does feel like it was the next era of Chucky, and not just with his relationship with Tiffany, but just the way the movie plays out and the style. We got Rob Zombie music playing in that, which is really cool. Definitely a product of its time. And Ronnie Yu, for not being the guy I would have picked to direct this, I think he does a great job in directing as well. My biggest problem with this film is just our two main leads that aren't Chucky and Tiffany. Katherine Hagel and the other guy, the boyfriend-girlfriend in here, who are on the run, and they happen to have the dolls with them. They're so despicable. I can't stand their characters. I'm not a big fan of the actors to begin with, but I mean, not long into the movie, they start suspecting each other of being the killer because the news is telling them that. And it's like, you guys are supposed to have loved each other and been really close, but yet right away you're already suspecting each other of being a killer and a psycho. And it's just like, it's just not believable to me. And I just really don't like their characters. John Ritter is a big asshole in here, but he's awesome to see. Rest in peace. And he gets a great death, a very Hellraiser inspired death with all the nails coming out of him. So some cool kills in here. Whether we're talking about the wine bottle hitting the ceiling, the glass ceiling, come down, killing the couple in the waterbed, to the splatter kill on the highway. That one dude gets hit by like the tractor trailer or whatever. Some good kills. The movie flies by pretty quickly. I like the style of it. The comedy works, I feel like, in this flick in particular. The third act kind of gets rushed, though. Again, I feel like that happens a lot in this franchise, where it's just starting to get good and interesting, where the dolls reveal themselves to the couple, and they're in the RV, and they all start fighting over like Martha Stewart and cookies and everything. They manipulate the dolls to get them to fight, and it seems like we're already within 5 minutes, they're already crashed and we're in the cemetery and the movie's about to wrap up. So that's kind of rushed. I don't like all the added stuff about the medallion that never existed before this movie, but yet they say Charles E. Ray had this medallion on him when he died and it's buried with him, and all that's garbage. Don't like any of that. And like I said, I don't like our two main leads, but everything else is very badass in this movie. I like the whole Bride of Frankenstein reference when he kills Tiffany. She's watching it, and then she ends up getting electrocuted in her bathtub and basically becomes like a Frankenstein character herself. So there's a lot of good in this movie, despite me not liking a few things. And one of the best things is actually Chucky's look. I love his new look, where he's all sewed up after being like blown up. I thought it's just really cool. It's very iconic. This is what I think of when I think Chucky. I think the scars and everything, just because this is a version I really grew up on. So after all that, when I was a kid, I would have put this in S. As the years go by, I'm dropping down, but I think it's still a solid B, if I'm being honest. Now, I would put it ahead of Child's Play 3. Up next, we got Seed of Chucky, the movie that most people really despise. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it has many problems. One of them being way too much comedy thrown in here. It's way more comedy than horror at this point, where it's not balanced out anymore, and they really just went too far in the comedy section, and it's not all that funny to begin with. Really don't like the Glenn character, the son. If Chucky's gonna have a kid, you would figure it'd be like the most badass serial killer of them all, but no, they make him like a whiny little bitch who doesn't know whether he's a boy or a girl. Kind of ahead of its time when talking about being like non-binary or whatever, gender fluid and all this stuff. But it just doesn't work in this franchise with these characters. I mean, it's just so ridiculous and bizarre. And there's a lot of bizarre stuff in this movie, not just with the kid, but also like with the turkey baster, and they're trying to artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly later in the film. Very weird. I like the meta stuff. I like how Jennifer Tilly's actually in the movie playing herself and everything like that. How Tiffany's trying to get into her body. I thought that's kind of fun. It's weird that like Red Man's in here though. I thought that was kind of odd, but he gets a pretty cool death with his intestines coming out. So there's a lot to like in this movie. I think it has some good gore. I think the fact that Tiffany is trying to make Glenn, or Glenda, as she likes to call her, a better person and not make them a killer and everything. While Chucky is doing the opposite. He's like, no, I'm taking you out, having a man's day out, and then I'm going out and murdering people and stuff. I thought that's kind of fun. It's just, the movie is kind of a mess at the end of the day. There's a lot of things I like, a lot of things I don't like. At the end of the day, I think there's more that I don't like than what I do like. But I don't hate this as much as the average person. I don't think it's quite an F tier movie, if I'm being honest. I'm going to put it in D, because I think this is way better than some of the other franchises that I did. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, the next generation or whatever, the new generation, whatever it's called. This is way better than that. This is way better than Freddy's Dead. This is way better than Halloween 5 or Ends or Resurrection, in my opinion. But it's still not great, so it's going in the D tier. Up next, we got Curse of Chucky, a return to form for the franchise, removing all the bizarreness, all the comedy that didn't work, and, you know, going back to the horror elements for the most part. I love this setting, how this is almost like in a haunted house. It's like this big ass house that's like a mansion, has an elevator in it and everything. You know, of course, our main girl being in a wheelchair, Nika. So I like the setting, and it adds a certain creepy atmosphere to the franchise, which is really what it needed. Like I said, this goes back to the horror elements, so not a lot of comedy in here. And right away, you notice that with one of the first scenes of tension, which is the chili scene, where they make a bunch of chili for everybody sitting at the table. And you know Chucky poisoned one of them, but you're not sure which one. And they just do a really good job of cutting the camera to everybody. Some people sweating, and you're like making faces. Is it them? Is it not? That is just so well made. It's one of my favorite parts about this film. And of course, we find out it's the priest that ends up getting it. He leaves and ends up in a major accident with like his head falling off and everything. Great gore, great kills throughout here. Like I said, great moments of tension. The kill with the babysitter, the nanny or whatever, getting electrocuted is pretty good, even though there's a plug-in on the floor of the house. Who does that? Of course, that'd be a water hazard and you're going to get electrocuted. So I thought that was a dumb placement of the plug-in, but made for a pretty cool kill. I absolutely love when Nika's sister discovers the doll in the attic and she starts peeling away at his face, and you're like, that's why he looks so bad. Because that really bothered me the first time I watched this. I'm like, why does Chucky look so terrible looking? But you realize because they covered up his scars and stuff. So once she peels everything away, he looks like he did in Bride of Chucky. Not as good, but you know, he has that scar face look again, which I absolutely love. And how the eyeball comes down the basement stairs after he kills her is just so great. So a lot of cool deaths in here. One real standout one is her boyfriend, the sister's boyfriend, how he gets like his whole jaw like chopped off with the axe, and it's like hanging in his tongue, and oof, looks gnarly. So the kills are awesome. The atmosphere is awesome. There's tension again. There's horror again. Our main lead, Nika, is in a wheelchair, so that really gives Chucky an advantage, right? Where a doll doesn't seem like much of a threat, but when you're in a wheelchair and you can't go upstairs or nothing, that's when he becomes more of a threat, more of a menace. And I thought that was a genius way to make him more threatening throughout the story, and to put the blame on her instead of Andy. Now people's blaming Nika for stuff, you know, because of her upbringing and everything that happened. It just makes sense. So much to talk about with this film. I want to talk about the background too, how Charles Lee Ray was involved with her family. I like that whole connection, and it just really ties in the whole franchise just that much more tighter. You know, this doesn't just feel like a spin-off or a random, you know, side story. This is really connecting to the main story. And by the end, it feels satisfying. You're like, this is a good Chucky movie again. I'm so glad he put the franchise back on track. Fortunately, this didn't get to go to theaters, so the budget wasn't as great as it could have been. But for the most part, I really liked Curse of Chucky. So it's going up into the B category for me as well with those other ones. Like I said, put the franchise back on track. Up next, we got the Cult of Chucky. This one is a little frustrating because it does something so well. Like, I like, again, the whole setting in the asylum because there's nowhere to run, there's no escaping. Everybody is loony in there, so of course nobody's real believable when they're telling you things or explaining things, and even Nika herself comes off as not believable. Even though the viewer knows what's really going on, the viewer knows that Nika is sane and not crazy. But when she's in this situation in the asylum, of course, everything she says is going to make her sound like a crazy person. So all of this adds to the film and how well it works, I feel. And I think that having multiple dolls in the asylum works too, because you're like, is that doll really a Chucky doll or is it just a good guy doll? And it makes for a lot of moments of tension, especially like one girl's like breastfeeding the doll and you're like, ooh, is that really Chucky? Is he going to bite your nipple off? Or like different situations like that. I think they do really well. I feel like this movie only falls apart in the third act where we introduce the actual cult of Chucky and we get a bunch of Chucky's running around, real goofy, starting to be a little too comedic at the end, where it's basically like the Three Stooges, the Chucky's running around, and it's like too late in the film. If they're going to do a cult thing, I wish they would have done it earlier in the film, and just have a bunch of Chucky's going around like crazy. Like I said, we do get some Chucky's earlier on, but they're mostly playing like a doll, or they are a doll, right? So, yeah, the ending I wish it would have happened sooner, and everything feels so abrupt at the end, where um, the doll turns into Nika. Nika gets up, walks away. You're like, oh, this is interesting. But then the movie just kind of ends on this all these cliffhangers. Andy shows up where he was throughout the film, but not doing whole lot. But when he finally does show up on the scene, he gets in one little fight with a Chucky doll and gets locked into a cell, and that's it. So it's like he feels completely pointless in this film, Andy, whereas like there was no real need of him to be in the film. Of course, all this really ties into the TV series after the fact. But when this movie came out, I was like, man, this is just so disappointing and unsatisfying the way that this ends. It felt like the movie was just getting going and then it ended, right? Like I said, you get a lot of answers in the TV series, but I'm not real fond of watching 3 seasons of a show to figure out little answers to this, which the answers don't come right away in the TV show either. You really have to get into it. So, yeah, Cult of Chucky could have been better. I think it's still a C at the end of the day, because most of the movie really works for me. Like the first half in the asylum and with the tension and with everything. It's just the back half where the comedy comes in and the cult stuff, and Andy shows up for no reason, and Nika leaves at the end where it's really Chucky and Nika, and it's just like, you can't just leave us on a cliffhanger like that. So, yeah, it's getting the C treatment in this tier list. And finally, we're going with Child's Play Remake. A lot of people hate this movie. This is one of the most divisive movies in the franchise. It's either people love it or hate it. This came out, and then Megan came out, and a lot of people seem to like Megan a lot better. Same type of story, with this AI doll. I much prefer Child's Play. I like that it's super R-rated. The kills are insane in here. Definitely the most gruesome in the franchise. I mean, one guy's face gets peeled off and put on top of a watermelon, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, which is right crazy. And that just adds so much tension throughout the film because the kid has that head in his room, and it ends up at an old lady's house where he has to try to get it back. She thinks it's like a birthday present and everything. It gets pretty insane. I can understand why people don't like this as a Child's Play movie. I feel like when I watch this, I can put Chucky aside. I can put this franchise aside. I kind of see it as its own thing. I kind of wish they would have named it something else, because I feel like it would have been more successful from the fans and from the reviews. It might not have made as much money in the box office because maybe people wouldn't have seen it if it was named something different. I get that. But to me, I can separate the two, and I really love this movie. I like that Chucky believes he's doing the right thing in this film. Like I said, he's an AI. He's not a serial killer that went in the doll through voodoo. And with this AI angle, I think it just really works. He's always there to protect Andy. When Andy lets out his frustrations and says, "Man, I wish this guy was dead," Chucky doesn't see that as just speaking out loud. Like, he thinks that, like, oh, I'm going to go kill this guy and make Andy proud of me. Like, so I like that about this doll. Again, it doesn't work as a Chucky doll, but just as an AI doll, I think this really works. And he does have his creepy moments. Not many, but one in particular is after he killed the cat and he's in the corner of the room in the dark at night and he's making all these cat noises. Like, oof, it is just so unnerving. But yeah, throughout the film, he's not real scary himself, but neither was the old Chucky either, right? For the most part. I just really like the kills in here. I like the story, the way things play out. I think the worst part of the movie is definitely Chucky's look. I think that was atrocious, and they definitely should have changed his look. And I think the characters could have been a little bit better. Andy is casted as like a 13 or 14-year-old. I think he should have been a bit younger in this role, same as his friends. But aside from that and Chucky's look, I really enjoy this movie. I don't get what most people have all these problems with it. I just love how vicious it is. While Chucky himself doesn't look threatening, his kills certainly are, and they're gruesome, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I know we'll never probably get a sequel to this movie since the fans don't really seem to care for it, but it's unfortunate. I would have really liked to see the direction they go in with this. I heard there's plans on a Child's Play Megan crossover perhaps happening one of these days, like a versus movie. That'd be really interesting, especially since Megan has become more good in Megan Part 2, so she maybe will be the good versus the evil. I don't know, but that'd be a cool scenario. But all I know is I really like this movie. I want to piss people off right here, but it's going in the A category. I think it's that good. Very solid flick. And I don't know what else more I would ask for aside from the few negatives I had with it. Aside from Chucky's look and the casting, I think this is a phenomenal version of the character. So, and what's his name? Mark Hamill. He got the voice him too, which is just really wild and cool. So that's just really cool. Here's my tier list of Child's Play. No F tiers. I know I was thinking Seed of Chucky might have been an F tier, but really thinking about it, I don't think it's quite that bad. It is a bad movie, but not quite that bad in my opinion. So there you have it. Nobody in the world is going to agree with this, but I don't care. It's my tier list, not yours. But I love to see how you tier rank this. Let me know where you would place these movies, which ones you love, which ones you hate. Love to hear it down in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything in the future. Follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram if you're interested. Links to those are always in the description of my videos, guys. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, thanks for watching.